Welcome to Unbiased and On the Fence. Well, we're talking about the flat earth today. Now, whether you're for it or against it, you're definitely going to want to stay tuned for this broadcast because I've got the bombshell. Now, first off, can you guess how many dots are in a standard size basketball? Because I like to use things like this to kind of bring into perspective other things like just how big the earth, if it is indeed a globe, would actually be. Stay tuned.
The pinnacle of human perspective.
Well, it turns out, according to Spalding, there's about 35,000 what they call pimples or bumps on a basketball. After doing a little bit of math, I thought, if the world was indeed a globe, but flat, meaning no mountains or valleys or anything like that, how much would one of those little bumps be as far as size-wise? And it turns out, if you had a 100-foot tower that's 30 meters tall, to where, you got to see a little bit further, you would be able to see roughly around 12.2 as far as a radius. So after you figure that out, you come out with about 467 square miles you can see of the 197 million miles of surface. And it works out that 100-foot tall towers, you need 12 for every dot. And there's 35,000 dots on the basketball, according to Spalding. So I just thought that was an interesting fact. Well, when I set out to do this second video on the flat earth, I first photoshopped some images because I thought, it's not really what I see, it's what I don't see. Because I wasn't for the flat earth when I set out to do this video. And so I photoshopped these images. But then I went to the website, because there is actually a website, you can see here, the Flat Earth Society website. And you can check this out. It's basically the flatearthsociety.org. And if you go to their frequently asked questions, you see it says, are you serious? Yes. I think that's what a lot of people think when they first hear that the earth is flat. They think, are you serious? But I wanted to go down to where it says, what is some of the evidence you have? And it says, there are several readily apparent proofs of the planet's flatness. And then I read, the horizon always rises to meet eye level, which is impossible on a ball Earth or a globe Earth. Now, this is what's kind of funny, because this was the exact point I was trying to make when I photoshopped the images that I have. So I thought, how are they using the same thing I wanted to use to prove that the earth is flat? Pretty interesting. So I thought it was a pretty good place to meet in the middle, because this is one thing that, I felt like proved the earth was a globe, and they felt like it was the thing that proved that the earth was indeed flat. And I'm totally in agreement. So, yeah, that's, if you can imagine a piece of paper or a ball and you rise, the piece of paper is going to continue on to eye level unless you hit the edge of the paper, of course. But if the paper went on forever, which, in a flat earth, technically, it does go on forever and ever because you just can't see that far. If you think about, even in the globe model, if you were to peel the globe earth out and spread it out, that would be quite a big flat surface, right? So just because of the atmosphere and the air and, just all the water molecules that would add up over time, you'd never be able to see all the way to the end. So you would always have, in art we learn about the vanishing point. And the vanishing point is where something just goes so far away that its movement is really negligible because it's just so far away. And in a globe model, that vanishing point would indeed drop because it would go over the edge. The horizon would seem to drop as you increase in altitude. So I thought, how can you prove that? Because you can get up in a tall building, and although the building's super tall, you still see a horizon. And I always felt like that horizon wouldn't be there if it was a flat earth. It would just continually go up and up and up. But as I explained with the basketball, the globe is just so enormous if it is indeed a globe. So how do you tell? Well, there's really no way to tell because unless you just get really, really high. Now, luckily for us, we have footage of people who have sent weather balloons up. And it came up with a real nifty way of actually using the curvature of the lens. Because if you think about it, people, wrongly assume that the curvature caused by the lens is actually proof of there being a globe. But if you turn around and look in all directions, you're not looking in a square. If you were seeing a square, it would look like it's rounding downward on the edge. But you're looking, your vision's a circle too, assuming the area is flat, like you're out in the middle of the water. So it will always look flat. And if it doesn't look flat, it's an optical illusion or it's a lens warping that occurs. Especially with these GoPro cameras, they have the wide angle lens, and unless the horizon is dead center, you're going to have this up and down effect here. It's sort of a rubbery looking up and down effect, and that's due to the lens, all right? But now as we move around, we come to the first point here. Notice I put a red line right in the middle of the footage, and that shows how as long as the horizon is right on the line, it looks straight. And you can see how we can even, as long as the very center of the lens is on the horizon, we can even take that line and turn it. And we can see how even here, as we go the other way, you can see a gap where it's actually concave, right? So as we move around, as the GoPro camera gets higher and higher, you see it stays pretty flat looking as long as it's right in the middle. So we continue to go higher and higher. And at some point, because we're going to stay at eye level, the line's going to be eye level. And if the camera's pointed downward, then the horizon is going to look like it's moving up. And if the camera's pointing up, the horizon is going to be concaved and look like it's going down. But as you see, once we reach, this was what, about 29 kilometers up, you can definitely see some curvature going here. And that means that the camera is slightly pointed down. Now, if we move the camera up until the horizon looks straight, now we're at eye level. So, indeed, we were in agreement that the horizon in the globe model would not rise to eye level if it was indeed a globe, and a flat earth would rise to eye level. And as we see here, when we line it up right on the horizon, once we get up pretty high up there, almost, it's basically in the stratosphere there, we definitely see some curvature, which means the camera is having to point downward to see the horizon. So that's it. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. But I thought this was kind of a nifty way of using stuff that's already out there. And I used this uncut footage that wasn't cropped at all. So we know that the center is, and of course I checked it right in the beginning to make sure indeed it does line up straight, and it did line up straight. But it's important to know that much of the information about the flat earth is based on NASA being a hoax. And I'll leave the link below. There's a video called Something Funny Happened on the Way to the Moon, or something along those lines. And so when I speak about the moon hoax, as if I'm sure it's a hoax, there's definite proof that they faked, at least in the video, you can see where they faked the moon landing. There's tons of evidence. I don't think there's any doubt about it at this point. So when I speak about that, they released footage they shouldn't have released that pretty much blows the whistle on that whole hoax. So when I speak about the moon hoax as if it's a hoax, as if I'm sure of it, to me, I don't think there's any denying it. But to attribute that as proof that they did that because the Earth's flat, I don't think that's. I think that's a fallacy, and I think it just makes more sense to think the fact that the Cold War was happening. We wanted to trick Russia into thinking we were further along in our space program, and that to me is enough to for all that to make sense. So I do appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one. 333 on the tree.